Welcome to Fintech Uncut, the quiz show with candid commentary on the biggest fintech and financial services news of the week that was. Disclaimer: this show is created purely for entertainment purposes and contains segments of sarcasm, satire, parody, and humor. Even if you don't think any of it is funny, the creators do not accept any responsibility or liability for the accuracy of any content shared and reminded you to always fact-check everything yourself. And now, it's over to your quiz master.
Welcome to Fintech Uncut, the quiz show with candid commentary on the week's biggest fintech and financial services stories with the wise guy, the other guy, and Judge Mary. And I can reassure you, even if you were following all the news at Money2020, we found at least 6 novelties that were not discussed that much. I will start with the first question. We know the saying, if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. And that could have been the title of the first article we'll comment here in this show. What news item am I talking about?
It's got to be the biggest news of the week, which is the Apple Pro XR headset, which lots of reviewers have said it hurts your neck because it's so heavy. So if it's not going to kill you, it's certainly going to make your neck stronger. Although I have no idea what that means, or what that's got to do with fintech and financial services. So it's probably not the right answer.
Although I think that's a relevant item to discuss at a breakout bites one day to see how financial services can benefit from those glasses.
Sounds
I
good.
have to wonder who the hell will pay $3,500 for a pair of glasses, but that's another story. I think this must be, if it's to do with killing something, the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission in the USA, trying to kill everything to do with crypto and doing an awful lot to try and lock down that marketplace, like filing a lawsuit against Coinbase, which is a service that I use, 110 million users, in fact, as of 2022, and they're trying to shut them down.
Yep, but it's not the news
I'm
referring to.
Well, fintech and financial news, big news. Checks are being killed in Australia by 2030, according to a new set of digital payment reforms that have come out there. I wish America would follow suit, but doubt it. But that's being killed, and it will make everybody stronger for not using blimming checks anymore.
It did get killed.
They haven't been killed yet.
Ah.
But it's not going to kill the people not using checks. It's going to make them stronger.
Mary, should we give them a hint? Or you're the judge.
I was about to show my checkbook. But we can also give them a hint.
I mean, I was thinking of the Kelly Clarkson song, which is Stronger. You know, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
How does that song go, Chris?
What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Stand a little taller. Doesn't mean I'm lonely when I'm alone. Anyway, it's kind of makes me think of jpmorgan, because they are now the #1 bank in the world on the back of the acquisition of First Republic. And they've had a whole influx of depositors. And their deposits now stand at $3.7 trillion, which is quite incredible. A single bank becomes not just systemically important, but the backbone of the world's economies.
So would you say that fintech didn't kill them, but made them stronger?
You can say that. I think I did see something where it wasn't Jamie Dimon, it was it Daniel Pinto, Mary, who was saying that the fintech world has made them more agile?
It was their number 2.
Number 2, yes.
I'd rather be a #1 than a #2, but that's something else.
Yeah, this was an interesting article. I was trying to see what he said precisely, but just the reasons for the expansion to get in front of the threats. But I love when Jamie Dimon does his investor notes. They're so bold and flavorful.
They said they're throwing something like $15 billion a year into growing their fintech portfolio and investments to be able to try and basically not Kill the fintechs, basically. I mean, he's quite outspoken on war against fintechs and believes that the big banks need to win against fintechs. So they're really throwing big money at it.
Well, 15 billion is their overall budget for technology. Half of it goes into innovation and half goes into keeping the lights on. And they made 16 fintech acquisitions in the last 3 years alone, including Nutmeg in the UK, for example, which is a wealth management robo-advisor. And they really have got their act together. And I'm actually quite an admirer of Jamie Dimon, because since the 2000s, he's always said technology is our USP. And in fact, when Bank One and jpmorgan merged, the first thing that Jamie Dimon did is cancelled a multi-billion-dollar 10-year outsourcing contract with IBM and to bring it all in-house. And that they really do show a leadership. Having said that, you can question the budget, and the shareholders do question the amount of investment going into tech because they can't see the return on that investment. On the other hand, if they hadn't done that, JP Morgan would just be an also bank, whereas now the world's #1 bank.
Yeah.
Points, Chris, you win 8. Andrew, 5. Whoa, outfit change.
Ain't nobody do best me. I'm just so fresh, so clean. Don't you think?
Oh, thank God we froze.
Ain't nobody do best me. I'm just so fresh, so clean. This is from Outcast. Someone felt really dope the last few years, but may not be that clean. Who am I talking about?
This must be Barclays Bank, in that Barclays Bank are Europe's largest greenwashing fossil fuel funding outcast, going to the fact that you're talking about outcast. And I saw some figures the other day that says that between April 2021 through to December 2022, just over 18 months, they provided $8.4 billion to fossil fuel companies, and most of it going into expanding oil and gas exploration and investigation and exposures. It's a huge issue, which Barclays, to be honest, is leading the whole of the market, along with JP Morgan, for example, in investing in fossil fuel expansion, which most people are trying to stop, particularly Extinction Rebellion.
Interesting.
Very interesting.
I'm looking for something more dopey.
More dopey. I've got more dopey for you. There's an article that cannabis dispensaries in the States have been using cryptocurrency as an intermediate step to facilitate people making payments, and apparently that is now being deemed as committing bank fraud. So they were using an intermediary to let people pay with a card, which they would then convert into crypto and then use the crypto to pay. And that's now been recently deemed that's bank fraud, so they can't do it anymore. That's dope.
That's dope, but not the right answer.
Oh, geez, you want a dope.
What about China versus America? In that everyone lambasts China as not being dope or whatever, but they've been investing a lot more in renewable energy than America. I mean, I don't know the latest figures, but the figures I've seen over the last few years shows that typically the US was investing maybe $50 billion into renewable energy, and China's investing $150 billion, 3 times as much. So is it to do with clean energy and not being, dirty?
No, it goes more in the direction of being the playboy of the industry, but supposedly not that clean, figuratively speaking.
Well, playboys of the industry, a lot of playboys drive BMWs, and the French regulator this week has fined BMW Finance €500,000 for their weak dirty money controls. There you've got playboys, guys who think that they're dope and dirty money.
True, but that's not what I'm talking about.
Maybe it's CZ going off into a different tangent, but Changpeng Zhao is the chief executive of Binance, and he's basically being hauled over the coals by the SEC, a bit like I said about Coinbase, because they're trying to shut down everything to do with crypto and saying that crypto are securities and traded as digital assets, that they're not currencies. And I know that Binance has been hit by, what was it, 13 charges of breaking rules for that reason.
It sounds very much not so fresh, not so clean.
Yeah, it's a bit of a sort of off the wall in terms of clean, but Binance is being accused of being dirty.
Yeah. Mary.
Hold on, wait, before points, got to slip in something so I don't lose as badly. I saw an interesting related article. It wasn't in the same article as the one that Chris is referring to, but that Binance lawyers have allegedly said that the chair of the SEC had offered to be an advisor to Binance back in 2019. And that's also now come out during the whole legal proceedings. And I thought, whoa.
Bonus point.
Yeah, bonus point. All right.
Still lose, but
Andrew,
bonus
I
point.
hear you. Chris, 9, Andrew, 7. And I hope we all observed Benedict trying to jump up the stairs that whole round.
There you go. Back to normal.
Fast.
Question number 3. GPT is not only transforming investment banking with Index GPT, as an influential voice rightfully noticed. What am I talking about? How is GPT transforming banking?
What does GPT stand for?
Andrew?
I actually can't remember now. Generative something. I used to know the acronym. Now I can't even bother. What's it stand for?
Generative pre-trained transformer. So we're actually talking about transformers like Optimus Prime and Bumblebee. And in Poland, where I live, as you know, we call them Autobots. So we're talking about Autobots, chatbots, and AI. And, you know, it recently came out. In fact, there's a lot of articles that have been coming out saying that AI will kill us, which I don't believe. I think it's actually going to be good for us. But Rishi Sunak's, the UK Prime Minister's tech advisor, who's just moving on, Matt Clifford, came out and said that artificial intelligence will destroy humans in 2 years. So put June 2025 in your diary. You won't be here.
And maybe we should meet up like a few days before.
That would be a good idea. Meet up on June the 20th. It's my birthday. But so seeing that you've brought in an unfinance related answer, I'm also going to give an unfinance related answer in the way that GPT is transforming things. A professor in the States failed his entire university class by asking ChatGPT whether or not their submissions, their essays, had been generated by AI. What he didn't, of course, know is that the AI doesn't know how to figure out whether or not it's been written by AI. So ChatGPT claimed that it had authored all of those essays. So he just failed the whole class. Now everybody's forcing him to go under investigation. But a couple of the students...
For using GPT.
Yeah, a couple of the students have already come forward and confessed that they did actually get ChatGPT to write their essays for them.
I mean, funnily enough, on this note, you know, I was reading an update about Money2020 Europe from my mate Danish Mystery, saying that every single presentation pretty much had a discussion around how artificial intelligence would impact banking and finance. And he said there wasn't a single speaker that downplayed the impact the technology would have. You guys were there. So what did you hear?
Everybody was, as you said, they would mention AI somewhere along the line. I think a lot of people are struggling to move on beyond the chat part of ChatGPT. They're viewing chat as oh, it's just a chatbot on steroids. And yet there are so many other cases in fraud detection, decision management, risk management, things like that. So I think a lot of people are cautiously experimenting with it. And talking about cautious experimentation and this is an answer that I'm going to submit to Rik. A digital artist called Rhett Dashwood, goes by the pseudonym Mankind, used ChatGPT to create a meme coin, a meme crypto that is now worth 50 million US dollars. He's
Why didn't we do that?
Yeah, well, exactly. And he's given all the instructions on how he did this, and he had zero programming knowledge.
Find out how to make an FU coin.
Zero. Actually, that's not a bad idea. Maybe we should, you can pay, somebody asks you to pay, you can go, here, FU.
Yeah.
Maybe we can make an FU meme coin.
Exactly.
I'll get onto that. I'll put that one on the list there. So there we go. That's how it might transform financial services.
You actually need to say it different. It's a few coin, not an FU coin. A few coin.
Few coin.
But Chris, going back to your question, I got a bit confused because the many stages that were very widespread. But I did attend one session with Annerie Vreugdeneel, the Chief Commercial Officer ABN AMRO, who did confess that also their developers are using ChatGPT to improve their work as coders. So it does go further with like the front runners in the banking industry.
Yeah, and I think that one of the most influential voices that we all know, our dear friend Dave Birch, who, has a tendency occasionally to go off on a rant, but he wrote a good article all about somebody who has written a plugin for ChatGPT called BankGPT. And it wasn't supposed to be a proof of concept or an MVP or anything like this. He was just saying, hey, here's how you could use this to interact easier with your bank account. Now, the thing that when I read that article and I was sitting there going, oh, this is old news, because 5 years ago, I hosted Jason Mars from Clink.ai in the States. I hosted him on a stage at the Consumer Electronics Show in Vegas. And Clink AI has been around for 5 years, more actually, and it is a conversational AI. It was a large language model that came out it just wasn't a publicly accessible API. And you could actually talk verbally, and he did a demonstration on stage live with him talking to his phone in a slang and wide-ranging human voice, and he was getting answers within seconds back again. And I'll put a link to that session in the notes, because it's fascinating. This predates all this hype, and it's been there for a long time.
But what does this have to do with BankGPT?
Well, BankGPT, he was doing, he's leveraged ChatGPT. The guy who's written BankGPT has leveraged ChatGPT to be able to make it easier for you to interrogate your bank account.
But the good news about this is that the more that AI is integrated with banking apps, is I can shout up my phone, show me the money, show me the money.
I love shouting on the phone during a 1-800 call. Andrew, you collected those points this round. 9. Chris, 5.
Oh.
Ooh.
But next one is definitely gonna be better, Chris.
Down.
Because we're gonna talk about another famous influencer. And I bet he got some inspiration at Michael Jackson. You know, the one who sang, and please join me if you like. Heal the world, make it a better place for you and for me and the entire human race. There are people dying. If you care enough for the living, make a better place for you and for me. What will heal the world according to this influencer? And where was my support?
I can buzz in early because Chris fell on the floor with the singing there.
Done.
Green finance will heal the world, and we had a really good session at the banking scene breakout bouts last week with a Belgium-based company called Settle. KBC has invested 1.5 million euros in Settle, and they have integrated it in order to help their customers with energy efficient renovations and navigate the tricky process of quotations and everything like that. They're going to heal at least a small part of the world. That's my submission.
Wrong answer.
Oh,
I reckon it might be to do with the news that came out this week about Standard Chartered. There's a guy called Michael Newby Fraser, who's their head of carbon accounting and is leading their net zero delivery for 2050. And he said that basically the risks arising from carbon emissions and climate change won't hit the bank's loans until maybe 2035. And it's 0.4% of the bank's equity at risk. So it's completely irrelevant. And therefore, rather than heal the world, let's destroy the world. Getting close?
No.
bloody hell.
We were pretty close a few questions ago. If that can help.
I'll tell you what isn't going to heal the world, but everybody was hyping it up a short while ago, was the concept of a global CBDC called Unicoin. And Unicoin was launched at the IMF, the big annual IMF meeting, and everybody thought it had been launched by the actual IMF. And this week the IMF has formally come out and said, not only have they got nothing to do with Unicoin, but they don't endorse the concept of a global CBDC anywhere in the first place.
Issued by IMF, isn't it an IBC? An IDC? Central banks are not involved.
Exactly. Yes.
Also, you know that if the unicorn gets $1 billion, it's a unicorn corn.
Unicorn coin.
Oh no.
Boom, boom.
The show is going down, down, down.
But I think with all the hype, and Chris was alluding to there, that all the hype at Money2020 and all the hype everywhere, no matter what industry nowadays, is all about AI. And as Chris said, AI can do good as well as doing bad, and a lot of people just focus on the dystopian Hollywood Terminator future of AI. And Andreessen Horowitz came out with a fabulous, really detailed article, but grab a cup of coffee because it's going to take you quite a while to read through it, that outlines an extremely positive possible future. And as a futurist, that article really appealed to me because it was taking a positive trajectory and extrapolating it forward, positive use cases in the way that AI could really boost humanity itself in the years to come. Of course, there's cautions around there, but it's a good article and needs to be read. We wouldn't do it justice talking about it here.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the article as well. It's about 25 to 30 minutes to read because it goes through all the nuances, but it's very positive, saying that AI will improve humanity. And I have this line, which is AI will automate the mundane and augment the human. And it's really all about giving us the maximum capability we have to be the best we can be. And every technology in history has been viewed as threatening. I posted something the other day about when the Gutenberg printing press came out, that the scribes in the monasteries and churches were saying this is going to kill our industry, which it did. But at the same time, there's still a place for calligraphy and art. And what I liked about the article is it was saying specifically that every one of us will have an individual tutor who will be infinitely patient, infinitely compassionate, infinitely knowledgeable, and infinitely helpful in our lives. And specifically, and I referenced this a couple of weeks ago, I think, was doctors who were asked a question by patients got answers from the doctor that were quite terse compared to ChatGPT, which was actually very compassionate. And I think that's the big thing, which our lives will be enhanced by AI. It's not going to be destroyed.
I'm so glad that you brought up the education one, because I was looking around to see if I could just flash a copy of the book that I submitted a chapter to a couple of years ago, where I wrote that exact as an excerpt, as an article. And this is, again, way before this chat GPT and all that, but you could easily see it, that all the knowledge of mankind is now available on the internet, or a large chunk of it. And I had hypothesized a future whereby every child would have their own, mentor, tutor available to them through AI. And I had a huge row with my sister, who has been a teacher all of her life. And she said, no, they won't. And I went, yes, they will. And so went the story. But I'm actually going to put a link to that also in the notes.
I know we can go on about this, but my other line, apart from automate the mundane, augment the human, is we must teach children the things that machines cannot learn, and that's where we have to focus.
Yeah, agree.
But that will also take time, as we discussed last week in the Economist article by Henry Kissinger, who said that, of course, printing saved a lot of the world, but it also led to quite a few devastating wars in the beginning because balance was lost.
Yep.
Mary, how about points?
All right. Points. Andrew 11, Chris 8.
Wow.
Hands in the air for patience.
I think we have a winner already.
What?
Oh, I
No,
don't know.
we
We've
don't.
still got 2 questions to go.
I keep the points close to keep suspense.
And I thought you were infinitely compassionate.
Absolutely not. We'll save that for the robot.
Only with the host of the quiz. So next question. After the gambling blocker, a neobank found a new feature to personalize the banking experience and to make the life of clients better. What is it?
I think this must be something to do with gaming, bearing in mind that gaming is bigger than Hollywood and most other industries these days. So is it some bank that's integrated financial services into Halo, Super Mario, Sonic the Hedgehog, and Minecraft?
It's not that, but Andrew and I do know a company that is working on it.
And
I bet he's gonna add the link in the show notes.
No, I won't, because they haven't yet come on our show yet, so I'm going to leave that one. But they also do metaverse and blockchain and the whole lot as well.
Does anyone talk about metaverse anymore?
But I think if it's a bank that's personalizing the banking experience, I actually had a long conversation with somebody from Argenta at Money2020 during the networking. And they firmly believe that the core proposition to personalizing the customer experience is keeping their branches. And as a matter of fact, maybe even opening more, because they had done surveys, and particularly in the younger demographic and age demographic, the young people want a physical branch and a human interaction for what they call moments that matter, like getting your mortgage or securing a large loan. Younger generations do not want to do that online, according to their research. So maybe a neobank has finally figured out that and is going to be copying Argenta's strategy. Oh,
but,
sorry, bro.
I mean, you say that. I'm not sure if young people do want branches, and that you riffed a little bit about metaverse there, and it's been very interesting this week, so maybe this is to do with it, that there's a few banks doing some interesting things around the metaverse. So South Korea's Kookmin Bank, for example, has developed its own native metaverse financial service on a one-to-one customer service basis, and is also offering employee training and financial education for young customers there. And DBS, Singapore's biggest bank, has actually purchased a huge plot of land in the Sandbox, which is a metaverse land.
But there's still people in that metaverse.
Apparently, DBS is now offering interactive experiences to promote a more sustainable world based on their ESG efforts.
Is it because of a clear interest to join the world, or because the land got cheaper?
Maybe both. But end of day, if you've got a plot in Decentraland, then maybe you've got a plot in the real land.
True. I can also imagine if the metaverse, that kind of metaverse, would become a success, it could replace the branch experience in a way, but mind the details of what Andrew said. It's about life-changing events, getting a mortgage, dealing with heritage, that kind of stuff. That gets too complex and where people are not talking about or working with on a daily basis, so it doesn't get in the daily routine of digital services.
You say it's a neobank, so I'm guessing because I focus so much on the UK neobanks, it's Starling or Monzo or Oak North or Tandem. But Starling did say something this week, which I thought was interesting, which is that when you send a payment in their app, you can put a tag on it that explains what the payment's for, like, dinner the other day, or, going down to the gym, whatever. And apparently some guys or girls were using this to send messages that were trolling. And so you get a message, quite abusive in its content as a tag. So they've now offered you the chance to block those messages, which I thought was a really good move, because it's obviously it's useful to know a casual message about a payment from a friend. It's not useful to have an abusive message from an ex-partner.
Right answer.
I am fascinated by this. Andrew, what?
No, I was going to say, the fact that there is a need for something like that, to me, is a damn. It's just I can't use.
I think I felt
polite.
the same.
Yeah, I can't use polite words enough. Otherwise, I'd have to beep out everything here. But that's just a reflection of just the disgusting humans that are out there. And it's not the first time that I've heard that. I've heard people that send 1 cent to somebody as a payment just so that they can put an abusive reference on there, because you can block them on social media and everything, but you can't block payments coming into your account.
I never heard of that before.
Yeah, people send 1 penny just so they can swear and hurl abuse at the recipient in the reference tag.
Yeah,
and
apparently.
it's just disgusting. I mean,
It's cheaper as a mess.
I applaud Starling for doing it, but the fact that they needed to do it is just shows what trash there are out there as humans.
Yeah, no, it's bad, because back several years ago, Venmo, you'd see all these articles of like, hey, I'm finding out things about my ex, or the guy I like, or the lady I like, and whatever. So it's like the fun way. But on the flip, Andrew, to your point, I mean, it's horrifying.
And how did you how do you find out personal information through Venmo from other people?
When their profile is public, so you can see
because that's another thing that what Starling is doing. In the case of Starling, for example, you push me out of this Fintech Uncut, I get angry. I know the bank account of a few people in the show that have been working with me before. So I start sending them 1 cent payments with very insulting messages. Not songs, of course, because you can transfer that, but there's the kind of things I never heard of. Okay, I mean, yeah, there seems to be a market for that kind of solutions. Do you know how big that problem is, Chris?
No, I don't know how much of a problem it is, but people are weird, and there's lots of people who end up in bad relationships, whether it's with friends or partners.
Yeah.
And obviously, it is a big issue, and otherwise, why would Starling do it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Points. Chris 9, Andrew 7. I'm not even sure who's winning.
Keep track.
All right, you have one more question to make those calculations, Mary. As you are doing that, I'm gonna raise that last question. We don't often hear of viral videos that involve banking, but this week was an exception. What happened?
Well, I mentioned Standard Chartered's environmental discussion earlier. So is this the fact that Standard Chartered, if you put them into an acronym, are an STD?
Are an STD.
Frozen in delight. Frozen in
Sexually
delight.
transmitted disease, Rick. Obviously, you're too much of a
That's
good
not the
boy.
kind of English
You've
I'm
never been
involved in
exposed to
too
an STD. I understand. You're a good, great father. Don't worry about it. In fact, there was a very interesting article this week about a Russian banker. Nothing to do with viral video, although maybe it is because maybe he was caught on camera. But he was caught spying on a woman as she used the toilets on the tube. Alexei Ostapchuk was caught peering over the top of a cubicle at Cannon Street Station as the woman took her clothes off to use the toilet. So I don't think that'll be a viral video, but it could be related to a banking thing because he is a banker.
The kind of videos I get in touch with from Russians that go viral is a Russian that got eaten by a shark. Why do you get those messages?
We'd like to feed a lot of Russians to sharks, but not my friends who are Russian. So
Interruption. You're tied 39-39.
Oh,
ooh,
well,
this
there
is
was
one I-
there
Hey.
was a viral video with a man in Nigeria in a bank, and he had gone into this bank in Nigeria to query the fact that there were amounts of money going out of his account that he hadn't authorized. And when they said to him they can't give him the answer why, he started howling and making noises like a dog. And that video went absolutely viral. It's had over 131,000 likes so far, and it was an Instagram reel.
Oh, please
And
put it in the show notes.
He said, I will put it in the show notes. He said he's not going to stop making a noise until they can give him a satisfactory answer. The comments are actually funnier than the damn video as well, but they were all like, this is just the way that banking goes in Nigeria. So that was certainly a viral video about banking.
Yeah, but from the week before, I think.
Didn't we have a story a few episodes ago about a guy who stripped naked in a Nigerian bank?
We did. Seems like Nigerian banks
Fast
are fun
news.
places to
Old
be.
news.
I mean, the one I caught this week, which is a viral video, was a Zoom meeting in India with one of the Indian banks, and the boss was clearly remonstrating and abusing his team and his staff in a shouting match. And what struck me is, in a related article actually, that a lot of banks have very bad work practices. eFinancial Careers listed 6 big reasons why it's bad to work for a bank. That you're overworked, you're disconnected from the management team, you're rewarded badly, there's too much internal politics, you're asked to work 24/7, and there's huge amounts of bureaucracy. Apart from that, everything in the bank is good.
I'd seen that video, and it was absolutely horrendous the way that guy was shouting there. But to me, one of the issues there is because one of the things he was shouting about was their inability to sell 75 insurance policies a day. You can't sell 75 insurance policies a day, which to me indicates that the wrong APIs and the wrong incentives have been put in place. So clearly his bonus and his incentives are based on trying to get his staff to do the impossible, which is sell 75 insurance policies again. So there's that is not only a failure of the person, because clearly they have no idea how to manage staff, but it's also a failure of the leadership above that. It is expecting him to be able to get his staff to sell 75 insurance policies a day, or they've just badly incentivized him.
Yeah. And the critical factor here is we've seen it in many economies, particularly in US, Mary, with Wells Fargo, with false account openings, for example, that the staff are being pressured heavily to sell, and a bank shouldn't be selling, because what you end up doing is you push credit at people that can't afford it. And that's exactly why we had the 2008 financial crisis. It's the reason why PPI scandal in Britain, which is where personal protection payments insurance was falsely sold. It creates billions of dollars of exposure, which then has to be recouped and covered. What's Wells Fargo reputation like these days, Mary?
Okay, it's funny you mentioned this. I was just talking about this actually with Theo, and I think it's like, bleh, people know that had happened, but did like people run away from this bank? No.
Like Barclays.
It's such a weird thing. I think Wells Fargo's tagline used to be something like 8 is great, and they meant like sales for products, which is just what.
You're the winner of this question, Mary.
Thank you. Okay, so then it's a tie.
Best tie ever.
No, Chris still, I'm killing the thunder. Chris 8, Andrew 7. Chris.
Ah!
1 point.
All right. Thank you all. Thank you again, other guy, wise guy, Judge Mary, for being here, for sharing all these insights. I cannot wait for more international fintech news coming soon. And I heard at Money2020 that many more are waiting for that as well. If you like the show, make sure you register on our website for a newsletter or have a look at the merchandise, incredible merchandise of Fintech Uncut, and spread the word across the world about the latest financial services stories of FU, Fintech Uncut. This was the 26th episode, and we hope to entertain you, your colleagues, your friends, connections, followers, neighbors, cats, dogs, rabbits, and many, many more very soon again. Bye-bye.